Hello and welcome to the second episode of my series I'm calling Bag, beating all Game Boy Advance games. Each game is randomly selected, so I never know which game I'm going to be forced to play next. But without further ado, let's get into today's game. We have been blessed by Jesus and his cronies because today we get the privilege of playing Looney Tunes Double Pack. This game is not called Looney Tunes Double Pack for nothing. That's right, you get 2 games for the low price of 1. In fact, the cover art for this actually says 2 great games, 1 low price. Look, maybe that's just me, but that kind of feels like a red flag when there has to be a red banner at the top talking about how many games and how low the price is. Each stage starts out by introducing the characters along with a cute little scientific name. So in this first stage, the Roadrunner is basically the incredible accelerator or incredible runner, and the Coyote is a vulgar carnivore. The premise of the main stages are pretty basic. You go up, down, you can switch to these different lanes, as well as go forward and back to speed up and slow down. And you pretty much just want to dodge all of the obstacles. Some obstacles you have to duck under, and other obstacles you have to jump over. You also can pick up these gold or popcorn, or I don't know what they're supposed to be, bird feed, that allows you to get a dodge attack so you can dodge through the obstacles instead of jumping over them. If you end up touching Coyote, it's an instant fail and you have to start over. And the same goes for if you bonk Roadrunner's brain basket 5 times. Outside of avoiding obstacles, your main challenge is to avoid the Coyote. In this first level, he's pretty easy. All he does is chase you, and when he flashes white, it means that he's about to do a dodge attack and you need to move out of the lane into a different lane. If you switch lanes at the right time, you're able to coerce the Coyote into hitting the objects. And if he hits enough objects, he'll disappear for a little bit before coming back. There are also checkpoints about halfway through each level, which is great, but if you run out of lives that are shown in the bottom left corner, you have to start from the beginning of the level. Eventually, you'll hit the end of the stage and it will be complete, and the next stage will start automatically. In the second stage, they gave the Roadrunner the scientific name of Zippy Bird, and they gave the Coyote the scientific name of Hungry Fleabag. The second stage is essentially the exact same as the first stage, except the Coyote is now in a wingsuit. So when he starts flashing white, that means he's about to nosedive into the ground, so you have to make sure to move out of the lane. This stage also introduces 2 new obstacles. You have to duck underneath a sign and jump over a plank of wood. The next stage is the first boss stage of the game. I didn't know what to do here, so I just went through avoiding all the obstacles like normal. I got to the end and it said that I failed the boss stage. That's when I learned what the gold things were for, and that it allowed you to boost, and that you were supposed to boost, hit the anvils, and allow them to fly up and hit the Coyote on the head. After ironically giving the Coyote a goose egg on the top of his head, we continue on to the next stage. In the next stage, Roadburner and Giant Appetite take to the streets to cause more havoc. This level is almost the exact same as the first level, except the Coyote now has rocket skates on, so he's just a little bit faster. You also have to avoid these holes because if you fall into them, you immediately die, but if you can also lure the Coyote into them, he will instantly die and be gone for a little bit. The stage also introduces these barriers that you can either jump over or you can actually duck under them as well. And in stage 4 we have Fast Tasty trying to outrun Slobby Eater while Slobby Eater tries to cannonball himself into the bird. In this level, those rocks are back, and we also have to avoid these new cactus. After that, we are introduced to the second boss stage, which is actually a nice change of pace. Coyote is rolling around in this metallic ball. When you jump over the stumps, he gets launched in front of you, so you have to avoid him when he comes back. And then there's also a bunch of switches that you have to make sure to hit. Every time you hit one of the switches, a magnet at the top of the screen progresses farther and farther. And when you hit the final switch, the magnet pulls Coyote out of the ball, and then, well, drops the ball on his head. The next stage has Disappears Quick trying to outrun Eats Birds, who has springs attached to the bottom of his feet. This level introduces TNT, and then you also have the barriers and cactus from previous levels to avoid. The TNT is different in the way that you have to just avoid it, you cannot jump over it, and you cannot duck underneath it. The main difference in the way that the coyote moves in this level is that he jumps behind you, he springs high in the air, and then he'll land kind of in your lane, so you have to avoid him at the last second. Continuing with the next stage, we have Coyote, who is now riding on a missile. He does essentially the exact same thing as the other level with the wingsuit, where you have to avoid him because he'll swoop down. This level is a little bit unique because once you get past the checkpoint, Coyote actually changes his moves up a little bit, so now he will drop missiles on you instead of swooping down. I don't know what it is about this part, but I found it extremely hard to avoid those missiles. This next boss stage is extremely infuriating. It took me so long to figure out what to do, I actually had to look up a walkthrough. So at first I thought I had to coerce the coyote into running into these ice blocks because it was the only thing in the stage that when he ran into them, it made a noise. I then tried avoiding the ice because I figured since he's riding an ice machine, avoiding it would be the best bet. And then when I finally looked up the walkthrough, it showed that you had to use your dodge attack and you had to break the ice so then he couldn't have the ice. And then once you finally know what to do, it actually becomes the easiest and fastest boss to beat in the game. In the second to last stage, Coyote is now a tornado, and the mechanic here is that when he gets close to you and is spinning, you start getting sucked towards him. So now not only do you have to dodge the obstacles, but now you have to make sure that you keep pulling away from him, or else if you touch him, you instantly fail. The final stage is kind of interesting. You have to progress through all of the different coyotes, and you have to avoid all of the different obstacles that have been introduced throughout the whole game. It's kind of like playing the game from beginning to end, all in one go. I will admit that I got stuck on this level for quite a while if you look at the timer in the bottom left corner, but eventually I did make it, and then we continue on to the final boss fight. For the final boss fight, the coyote is flying above you in a balloon and he is dropping these bear traps. The mechanic to win this is the exact same as the anvil. All you have to do is boost into one of the bear traps and it will fly up and hit Coyote. And with that, we finished one of the games of the 2 games in this double pack. The next game of this double pack is Looney Tunes Dizzy Driving. So when you first started up, you could pick between single and tournament. I figured doing the tournament would be the correct thing to do to consider this game beaten. There are a handful of characters that you can choose from. I ended up choosing Sylvester because I thought his stats were pretty balanced. Beginning the tournament, it starts you off with a 1v1 race around this circular looking track. The race is very similar to a Mario Kart where you can pick up these Acme boxes that have different power-ups that you can use. The first race is really easy, and then we move on to a flag race, which means you have to collect all the flags in the level before you cross the finish line. This race is also extremely easy because you do have 3 laps to grab all the flags, and in this particular level we had to grab 4. The next event was another basic race, and instead of having 1 opponent, we had 2. After that simple race, the next one was a 1v1 elimination race. In an elimination race, there are no laps. All you do is you drive around, collect the Acme boxes, and try to kill your opponent. The next event is a 1v3 race, which is just one more opponent than last time. Moving on, it is a 1v2 flag race, and yeah, you can probably see the pattern here. It's also important to note that the other characters don't have to collect flags, but they can also not steal your flags. So you just have to make sure that you gather the flags and then you get to the end. The next event is, yep, you guessed it, a 1v4 race. Can you guess what the next one after this is going to be? I also think we can all agree that the map design on this level is a little bit suspicious. If you guessed a 1v2 elimination race, you are correct! That was clapping. The elimination races in this game are very tedious, so I discovered that if you sit here and you pick up all of the packages or all of the boxes, and then you just wait for them to loop back around, you can pretty much kill them off pretty quick. The next event is a 1v5 race, moving on. And of course, the next one is a 1v3 collect all the flags race. Don't worry, you're not having deja vu, it is another 1v5 race. And then we have a 1v3 elimination race. Now this one's a little bit interesting because the AI does not know how to basically do anything except drive around in a circle. I believe that they use the exact same pathfinding that they did for the first race. So pretty much all I had to do was drive in the center and pick them off slowly until they are all eliminated. And with that elimination, this game is complete. Overall, this game took about an hour and a half to beat. I give this a final rating of 2 out of 10. The reason for such a low rating is because most of this game is just repetitive. Something that I found kind of funny was there's someone who purchased this game in the last couple years on Amazon, gave it a 5-star review and said, really fun. Now I understand that this may just not be my type of game. Other people might absolutely love this game, but for me, I don't know. I didn't like it. I thought it was repetitive. I just could not wait until it was finished. Now with this stinker out of the way, let's roll for the next game. We rolled 369, which means we are playing Hot Wheels All Out. Also, just look at that happy face not having to play Looney Tunes anymore.